أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ثم يتوب الله من بعد ذلك على من يشاء، والله غفور رحيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا إنما المشركون نجس فلا يقربوا المسجد الحرام بعد عامهم هذا، وإن خفتم عيلة فسوف يغنيكم الله من فضله إن شاء، إن الله عليم حكيم. قاتلوا الذين لا يؤمنون بالله ولا باليوم الآخر ولا يحرمون ما حرم الله ورسوله ولا يدينون دين الحق من الذين أوتوا الكتاب حتى يعطوا الجزية عن يد وهم صاغرون. وقالت اليهود عزير ابن الله وقالت النصارى المسيح ابن الله، ذلك قولهم بأفواههم يضاهئون قول الذين كفروا من قبل قاتلهم الله أنى يؤفكون. اتخذوا أحبارهم ورهبانهم أربابا من دون الله والمسيح ابن مريم، وما أمروا إلا ليعبدوا إلها واحدا لا إله إلا هو سبحانه عما يشركون. يريدون أن يطفئوا نور الله بأفواههم ويأبى الله إلا أن يتم نوره ولو كره الكافرون. هو الذي أرسل رسوله بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على الدين كله ولو كره المشركون. يا أيها الذين آمنوا إن كثيرا من الأحبار والرهبان لا يأكلون أموال الناس بالباطل ويصدون عن سبيل الله، والذين يكنزون الذهب والفضة ولا ينفقونها في سبيل الله فبشرهم بعذاب أليم، يوم يحمى عليها في نار جهنم فتكوى بها جباههم وجنوبهم وظهورهم، هذا ما كنزتم لأنفسكم فذوقوا ما كنتم تكنزون. إن عدة الشهور عند الله 12 شهرا في كتاب الله يوم خلق السماوات والأرض منها 4 حرم، ذلك الدين القيم فلا تظلموا فيهن أنفسكم وقاتلوا المشركين كافة كما يقاتلونكم كافة واعلموا أن الله مع المتقين. إنما النسيء زيادة في الكفر يضل به الذين كفروا يحلونه عاما ويحرمونه عاما ليواطئوا عدة ما حرم الله فيحلوا ما حرم الله، زين لهم سوء أعمالهم والله لا يهدي القوم الكافرين.
بسم الله الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه بعد. With the name of Allah, and may Allah's peace and blessings be upon the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Thank you for joining us today. This is, inshallah, the continuation of the series for doing summaries, for parts of the Quran as we go through each juz in this month of Ramadan, and try to reflect and understand so that, inshallah, we can benefit and receive guidance, which is the goal of this month from Allah's book. So tonight, inshallah, I'm going to be talking about some lessons from Juz 10. Juz 10 has both the ending of Surah Al-Anfal, which is the 8th surah of the Quran, and Tawbah, which is the 9th surah. So I'm going to be talking about some very few verses, actually. I think it's like total of 4 verses that are in Surah Tawbah. If you really like look at Surah Tawbah, a lot of it, it's a very strong and powerful surah, and a lot of it to understand, you need some context to understand, like, when was it revealed, why was it revealed, and what was going on in the situation of the Muslims in that context when it was revealed. So I'm going to try to give some background. Surah Tawbah itself was revealed, and before I go to the actual ayat, Surah Tawbah itself was revealed in the 9th year of Hijrah. And to give some context on what that actually means. So this is the 9th year after the Prophet ﷺ migrated from Mecca to Medina. And now the Muslims are in Medina, so this surah was revealed in Medina. When I say 9th year after Hijrah, it means it was very close to the end of the Prophet ﷺ's life. So it was one of the last surahs to be revealed. It was also revealed after the conquest of Mecca, which is another important thing to understand what was going on at the time. And the conquest of Mecca happened in the 8th year of Hijrah. So if you think about like what happened in that, I guess the 8th year of Hijrah, 9th year of Hijrah, knowing what's going on in the land of the Muslims in Arabia and Mecca and Medina at the time, is important to get a sense of what's going on. So in the 8th year of Hijrah, we know that the Prophet ﷺ conquered Mecca. Before that, there was the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, where the Muslims were allowed to, or the Muslims were not able to do Hajj that year. This happened before, and then there was a treaty of peace between them and the Quraysh. And in that time of peace, the Prophet ﷺ sent many delegations to different parts of Arabia to start to teach them about Islam, tell them what Islam is, that he's the messenger of Allah, and invite them to Islam. So he sent many delegations to different parts of Arabia all over. One delegation he sent was to the north in Syria, like close to the frontiers actually of the Roman Empire. So if this group, it was like 15 individuals that the Prophet ﷺ sent, this delegation that went to the north of the Arabian Peninsula, so in like Syria and northern Syria, and that area was like a lot of Christians because of influence from the Roman Empire. When they went there to call them to Islam, this group over there that was led by a governor, they actually killed the group of 15 that was sent. They killed most of, if not all, the delegation, except the head of the delegation that was able to escape. And the ambassador that was appointed by the Prophet ﷺ himself was actually taken by the governor, and he was executed. And he was just an ambassador. They just came there to teach them about Islam, and they treated them with such hostility that they actually killed them. So the one that escaped, he came back to the Prophet ﷺ and conveyed the sad news of the fact that all of them were killed. And so the Prophet ﷺ felt compelled he had to do something, because there was just, there were just an innocent group that went to send the message. And so he mustered the Muslims, and he took a group of 3,000 Muslims, and this is a couple of months before the conquest of Mecca, and he takes them up north to the frontiers of Syria to fight with that governor and his group. The governor hears of the Muslims coming up north, and he assembles an army of 100,000. And so, this governor is assembling an army of 100,000. And also the Caesar, the Roman Empire, he's also assembling another army of 100,000 because he hears about this group of Muslims that are coming up. And this group of Muslims that are coming up north to fight are a group of just 3,000. And so the Prophet ﷺ is, this group comes up and they fight them, and they get victory over them. Even though they're just 3,000, this was nothing that shook the Muslims. They were strong, and they fought the 100,000 army, and they beat them, and they shook them, and they pushed them back. And this victory was so significant that a lot of the groups at this time that were in the northern parts of Arabia that had not become Muslim yet, they were inspired by this and they actually started to accept Islam in thousands. So this all happened before the Prophet ﷺ, and the Prophet ﷺ actually conquered Mecca. Soon after that, in Ramadan, actually, the conquest of Mecca happened, which is a familiar story for a lot of people. The Prophet ﷺ took the Sahaba down. They conquered Mecca, and after the conquering of Mecca, Islam started to spread, and it spread a lot. You know, in that year, from going from the 8th year of Hijrah to the 9th year of Hijrah, Islam started to spread very rapidly because now Muslims have a stronghold. They have, a state. They have an organized set of laws. They have a leader. They have a system that they're developing. Whereas before, there were a lot of disparate tribes all over the Arabian Peninsula. Now Islam is starting to unify and grow as a group and as a mass, and it's starting to become more and more accepted by people in the Arabian Peninsula. So a lot of things are happening now. There's the old Muslims, or the Muslims that have been around for a long time. They've been with the Prophet ﷺ for many years. They've been fighting alongside with him. They've been in the ups and downs. They've been through the tough times. They fought in Badr and Uhud, and they've done a lot of work with the Prophet ﷺ. They've seen a lot. Then there's a lot of new Muslims at this time that are just newly accepting Islam, and they're starting to slowly accept, to get accustomed to Islam, the teachings of it, and they're still very new to it. So there's that group of new Muslims. There's also still hypocrites. Hypocrites are still there. That didn't go away. There are a lot of hypocrites in Medina and all around. And because Islam was getting strong, and a lot of people didn't want to, they wanted to jump on the bandwagon, and they wanted to have that security, and they wanted to, just fit in. A lot of people accepted Islam, but with their mouths, but they didn't really actually believe. So there were a lot of hypocrites, as there were before. Now it's something that still continues. Why is this all relevant? Because this group is getting stronger and stronger, and it's getting bigger and bigger. And that little fight that happened a few, years back with the Prophet ﷺ and that governor up north in Syria. Now the Roman Empire, which is arguably one of the biggest empires at the time, it was the Roman and the Persian Empire. Now the Roman Empire is starting to take notice. Before, the Arabian Peninsula was just a bunch of barbarians. They didn't really take them seriously or take them as a threat. Now they know that this is a growing mass, and they're starting to get stronger and stronger. And also they just lost that battle, not too long before, with 100,000 strong against 3,000. So now they're taking it as a legitimate threat. And so the Roman Empire starts to muster troops. And also the northern tribes in Arabia that were not very fond of the Prophet ﷺ and his growth, they started to muster troops as well, getting ready to fight against the Prophet ﷺ and the Muslims. So it was around this time, 9th year of Hijrah, where the Prophet ﷺ made clear that he wanted to go up north and do this expedition of Tabuk. If you've heard of this term before, this is the famous expedition of Tabuk that goes on at this time, that the Prophet ﷺ is calling the companions to at this time. The Prophet ﷺ gets wind of the fact that there are these groups that are up north, the Roman Empire, these other tribes, a lot of different tribes that are uniting to fight against the Muslims. And so the Prophet ﷺ catches wind of that, and he tells the Sahaba that we need to fight back. We need to protect and go fight back against these groups. Otherwise, we're going to be vanquished. So he tries to encourage the Sahaba to assemble, that they're going to go up to do this expedition to Tabuk to fight. And this is different than what the Prophet ﷺ usually does. Usually he doesn't. His strategy is to not explicitly say where he's going. In this case, he explicitly says where he's going. And the reason for that is because Tabuk is a far, far away journey. It's not easy. It's also summertime at this time when the Prophet ﷺ is ordering them. When all this stuff is happening, it's like really hot summer. You have to rewind and imagine in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, obviously no air conditioner, no cars, no planes, obviously none of the ease that we experience now in this world. They had to, if they're going to do it, they're going to have to trek, right? And a group of them have to trek with all of their belongings and whatever they're going to fight with, and their food and their supplies and everything, and leave behind their families. And it's a lot to ask, right? It's a really big thing. It's not something small. So the Prophet ﷺ, knowing that, tells them exactly what they have ahead of them. And so the scholars say the part that I'm going to share, and I'll share some slides. It's just like 4 ayat. Scholars say that these 4 ayat that I'm about to share with you, these were revealed in the context of this situation. The Prophet ﷺ was telling them about this expedition to Tabuk and the need to fight back. And on this occasion, Allah revealed these verses. So let me pull up my screen. So, one second. So Allah says, and if you're following along, I'm in Surah number 9, ayah number 38. So chapter 9, verse 38. Allah says, بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا ما لكم إذا قيل لكم انفروا في سبيل الله اثاقلتم إلى الأرض أرضيتم بالحياة الدنيا من الآخرة فما متاع الحياة الدنيا في الآخرة إلا قليل. So, you who have believed, what is the matter with you when you are told to go forth in the cause of Allah, that you adhere heavily to the earth? Are you satisfied with the life of this world rather than the hereafter? But what is the enjoyment of worldly life compared to the hereafter except very little? So this is like the first of the set of verses that Allah reveals to encourage the Muslims after the Prophet ﷺ was commanding them to go, to remind them that they should go. And he's questioning why a lot of them had a reaction of not wanting to go. The way that Allah talks about the reaction is, He says, "O you who believed, ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, O you who have believed, ma lakum, what's wrong with you? إِذَا قِيلَ لَكُمْ انْفِرُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ, when it's told for you to go and, to go forth in the cause of Allah, to go fight for the sake of Allah, إِثَاقَلْتُمْ إِلَى الْأَرْضِ, like إِثَاقَلْتُم, like if you know some like basic Arabic, like ثقيل is like heavy, like it's like the opposite of light, right? So it's like إِثَاقَلْتُم إِلَى الْأَرْض is like picture yourself like literally like just being weighed down, like you just feel this gravitational pull like pulling you down. And so like it's Allah saying, why are you like that? Like when you're being invited to go fight for the sake of Allah, you just feel this pull that's heavy, this heavy pull that's pulling you back down to earth. أَرَضِيتُمْ بِالْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا مِنَ الْآخِرَةِ, and are you satisfied with the life of this world rather than the hereafter? So here Allah is actually questioning the faith of the Muslims. He's saying, are you satisfied with the life of this world rather than the hereafter? Because their reluctance was a human response, right? They have ease. Think about what all has gone through. If you think about if anyone has a right now to be at ease and to just want to relax because they've done a lot and they've been through a lot and they've had to go through a lot of suffering, it was the Sahaba, it was the Prophet ﷺ. It was these people that have gone through so much. Many years have passed by where they've gone through afflictions. Only a year ago, right? It's the 9th year of Hijrah. Only a year ago, in the 8th year, did they have the conquest of Mecca after all that hard work. And now Allah is telling them again, like the Prophet ﷺ is telling them again to go fight. They just had this huge victory after so much suffering. And so that was a natural reaction for them. And so this is natural. But Allah is saying, like, why do you have this feeling? Because if they really, what Allah is reminding them is that if they really had belief, if Iman was real and really deeply rooted, and they had so much certainty in the Akhirah, they believed that the real destination is Jannah, that this life is temporary, that Allah owns and controls everything, then if they're being told to go fight, then they would go. Like, think about the reasons, and I think actually I have to take a break. Let me pause here before continuing on this point. I think it's 9:05. So I'll pause here, inshallah, for an ad, and then inshallah I'll continue after the ad.
Assalamu alaikum. Alhamdulillah, our daughter Anisa has finished the memorization of the Quran. Sister Hanan, we are truly blessed to have you as her teacher. May Allah reward you for your efforts and dedication.
My name is Anisa. I just want to say a big thank you to Sister Hanan. Without your help, I wouldn't have finished memorizing the Quran. Thank you, Sister Amani, Sister Amal, and Sister Marvat for taking my just test and always encouraging me. I also want to thank my friends. You were my support and motivation.
And that's Darul Huda. MashaAllah, the dedication of the teachers is very inspiring. They go above and beyond. The teachers work very hard to create a positive atmosphere in which all the girls support one another. Their planning, guidance, and organization is extraordinary. The journey of Hifz is a difficult one, but the partnership that Darul Huda Tahfiz teachers have developed with the parents makes it easy not just for us as parents, but the students.
I also want to thank all of Darul Huda Tahfiz teachers for making us so proud of our children. We hope to stay together as a family in Jannah.
I am Musab, and I am also a student of Darul Huda Tahfiz. Thank you, Qari Shahid, for helping me memorize the Quran. Inshallah, I hope to be a Hafiz very soon. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن هدى للناس وبينات من الهدى والفرقان.
The month of Ramadan is that in which the Quran was revealed, a guidance for the people with clear proofs and guidance and criterion. The month of Ramadan is upon us. It is the month of Quran. If you would like to send a message like this to the community or place an ad for your business, please contact MTMC. The contact information is in the description of this video. Allow us to fill our homes with the recitation of the Quran and for us to follow its guidance. Please keep our family in your du'as.
Ramadan Mubarak!
Assalamu alaikum. Let me just make sure my screen is shared. So okay. So yeah. So they were told, you know, أرضيتم بالحياة الدنيا من الآخرة. Are you pleased with this dunya over the akhirah? So if what Allah is saying is that if, you know, the iman was real, the point that I was making was that if the iman was real and they really had faith, then it wouldn't matter if they're being asked to go fight in the way of Allah. Because if you think about what would hold someone back from fighting in the cause of Allah, it would be that they're afraid of losing their life, right? They don't want to die. And because they're afraid of death, they would rather have the comfort and ease of life right now, because most human beings don't want to leave the comfort and ease that they have. And so because of that feeling, they don't want to go fight and risk their lives. But if faith was really true, a couple of things would be different. One, the akhirah, we would believe, like truly what Allah is saying here is that if the faith was really true, you would believe in the akhirah is the ultimate destination anyway. You would also believe that it's only Allah who gives life and only Allah who causes to die. It's not because of whether you go to fight or not. That's why Allah says elsewhere in the Quran, أَيْنَمَا تَكُونُوا يُدْرِكْكُمُ الْمَوْتُ وَلَوْ كُنْتُمْ فِي بُرُوجٍ مُشَيَّدَةٍ. Like no matter where you are, death will meet you. Even if you're behind fortified castles. So it doesn't matter, like this is a point that Allah drills over and over again when he's encouraging them, is that it doesn't matter either way. If death is decreed for you, it's going to happen. So that's another thing, is like if the faith was really there, then that strong faith would be there. It wouldn't matter whether you fight or not. And also just like enjoying the comfort of this dunya, like being satisfied with this dunya is something else that he's saying is not characteristic of the believer. If they really want to, or they believe in the akhirah, then they would value the akhirah and Jannah over this world. So that's why he's asking this question. فَمَا مَتَاعُ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا فِي الْآخِرَةِ إِلَّا قَلِيلٌ. and the mata' of this hayat dunya, like the life of this worldly life, or the rest of this worldly life, compared to the akhirah, the hereafter, is just like really very little. Then continuing, Allah says, إلا تنفروا يعذبكم عذابا أليما ويستبدل قوما غيركم ولا تضروه شيئا والله على كل شيء قدير. So Allah is saying, if you don't go, then He will punish you with a painful punishment. And this is not just talking about this dunya, or the akhirah. Like when you read this, it may just seem like it's Allah's talking about the akhirah, that He's going to punish you with the painful punishment in the akhirah. But no, like some scholars say, it's actually like referring to this dunya also. Like imagine if the Muslims at the time, when the Prophet ﷺ is ordering them to go up to fight in the frontiers of the Roman Empire and the other tribes that are ready to fight against the Muslims. Imagine if they just said, you know what, I just want to stay over here. I don't want to fight. Like my life is comfortable. I don't want to get out of this comfort. And they decided to just stay put, right? Imagine had they done that. Then what would happen? The Roman Empire is huge, very powerful. The other tribes are very powerful. They would plow through the Arabian Peninsula, and they would easily make their way down to wherever the Prophet ﷺ and the rest of the companions were. And whoever was thinking that they had this life that they enjoyed, now the reverse would be there. Now they would not be enjoying it, because the Roman Empire would have made it their way down. So Allah is inviting them to think long-term, not just short-sighted. Like He's waking us up. Don't just think short-sighted and see what's in front of you and the comfort that's in front of your eyes. Think about like long-term. Like if you live like this, there are consequences to it. And it's just the same for us. Like here, Allah is talking about a certain time and place, referring to when the Prophet ﷺ was inviting them to go up to Tabuk. But it's also for us here today. It's applicable. Like we, if we feel like really comfortable and we feel like, we just have what's in front of us and we're just thinking short-sighted of whatever is in this dunya, and we forget about the akhirah, then we're going to lose in the long run. We may win in the short run. We just see what's in front of us. But in the long run, it doesn't last. وَيَسْتَبْدِلْ قَوْمًا غَيْرَكُمْ وَلَا تَضُرُّهُ شَيْئًا. And He will replace you with another people, and you will not harm him at all. So this is another thing that Allah says over and over again. He has this threat in the Quran that He makes, that if you don't go, then He'll just replace you. Like all of us, and Allah is telling the Muslims at the time that they're replaceable. It doesn't matter, like anyone that accepted Islam, if they're not willing to go with the Prophet ﷺ when He's calling them, and to go for the sake of Allah, they're replaceable. And Allah is saying He can easily find someone to replace. Allah says in a famous hadith Qudsi, beautiful hadith, very long, it's one of the 40 hadith an-Nawawi, that He says that لو أن أولكم وآخركم وإنسكم وجنكم كانوا على أفجر قلب رجل واحد منكم, that if the first of you and the last of you and the man of you and the jinn of you was to be of the worst, like most wicked of faith, or the most wicked person, and to do the worst things possible, it wouldn't decrease Allah's kingdom at all. Like what we do doesn't harm Allah in any way. It doesn't affect Allah in any way. It's just Allah is inviting the Muslims to go and to fight with the Prophet ﷺ to Tabuk. Wallahu ala kulli shay'in qadir. And Allah is over all things. Over here the translation says competent, or Allah has power over all things. Continuing, then Allah reminds them that go and fight and assist the Prophet ﷺ. But illa tansuruhu, and this ayah goes, إلا تنصروه فقد نصره الله إذ أخرجه الذين كفروا ثاني اثنين إذ هما في الغار إذ يقول لصاحبه لا تحزن إن الله معنا فأنزل الله سكينته عليه وأيده بجنود لم تروها وجعل كلمة الذين كفروا السفلى وكلمة الله هي العليا Wallahu azizun hakim. If you do not aid the Prophet, Allah has already aided him when those who disbelieved had driven him out of Mecca as one of two. When they were in the cave, and he said to his companion, "Do not grieve, indeed Allah is with us." And Allah sent down His tranquility upon him and supported him with angels you did not see, and made the word of those who disbelieved the lowest, while the word of Allah, that is the highest. And Allah is exalted in might and wise. So here Allah is reminding the Muslims that if you don't accept this invitation to go and fight with the Prophet ﷺ to Tabuk, as he's calling you to, then he reminds them of this incident that happened years ago, 9 years ago, when the Prophet ﷺ was making hijrah from Mecca to Medina. At that time, the Prophet ﷺ was one of the last to leave Mecca to go to Medina. The Quraysh for a long time, they held back on killing the Prophet ﷺ because they couldn't. He was part of a strong tribe, and there's like a lot of tribalism. He had defense, and he had a lot of assistance, so they couldn't easily kill him. Finally, they realized that Islam was getting too strong in Mecca at the time. This was 10 years ago, right? They realized that Islam was getting too strong, and so they decided that they needed to assassinate the Prophet ﷺ before it got any more stronger. So they made this plot that everyone from all the different tribes would assemble together, and they would all at the same time go and attack the Prophet ﷺ. This way there wouldn't be blame on one tribe. And so they came up with that plot, and Jibreel ﷺ informed the Prophet ﷺ about this plot. Angel Jibreel told the Prophet ﷺ about this plot. And so the Prophet ﷺ made preparations to leave to Medina, and he told Abu Bakr radiallahu anh. And so him and Abu Bakr, I'm leaving a lot of details out of the story, but a lot of really important details, so you should check out the story if you get a chance. But him and Abu Bakr radiallahu anh, they go and they leave. They escape Mecca. They managed to escape. Actually in plain sight, in front of the Meccans. Allah shielded them from being seen by them. And so when they escaped, they didn't take the normal route up to Medina because they would have easily been caught if they did that. The Prophet ﷺ, his strategy was to go south. So they went south like 5 miles or so to this cave called the Cave of Thawr. It's a famous story. A lot of people know this story. So they go to the Cave of Thawr, and him and Abu Bakr, they go inside this cave. And while they're inside this cave, the Quraysh are all looking around for them, like to kill them. And the Prophet ﷺ and Abu Bakr are sitting in this cave, literally right below their feet. The Quraysh are all like in large number going around looking for the Prophet ﷺ. They're literally right below the feet of the Quraysh. If they just looked down, they would see them standing over there. And Abu Bakr radiallahu anh, fearing for the Prophet ﷺ, the life of the Prophet ﷺ, he says to him, like he asks him, like, what if they see us, basically? And so the Prophet ﷺ reassures him by saying, what do you think is the situation of two people with whom Allah is their third? And so this is the situation that Allah is talking about in this ayah, this story that happened in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, where they were in this cave. Every single logical, if you look at the situation from any angle, they should have been caught. They should have been caught. It was just two of them, and they were in plain, like it was very clear, like the Quraysh were right there. They could have easily caught them, but Allah prevented them from being caught because Allah is the one who gives victory, not the people. If Allah wants to give victory, He gives victory. And this is actually a theme that's mentioned a lot in Juz 10. Like Surah Al-Anfal also mentions this theme a lot in Surah Tawbah. Like Surah 8 and 9 both mention this theme a lot. That's why, like in Surah Al-Anfal, in chapter 8, Allah mentions وَمَا رَمَيْتَ إِذْ رَمَيْتَ وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ رَمَى. Like Allah says that you didn't like shoot your arrows when you shot your arrows. It's actually Allah that shot the arrows. Meaning when this was talking about a different battle. This is the battle of Badr. So it's Allah, like وَمَا النَّصْرُ إِلَّا مِنْ عِنْدِ اللَّهِ. There's no victory except from Allah. So Allah says, like, even in Surah Al-Anfal, like وَمَا جَعَلَهُ, like when Allah talks about the angels, everyone, like a lot of people know about the story of the Battle of Badr, when Allah sent down the angels to come help the Muslims. He sent down droves of angels, right? But then right after He mentions that He sent the angels to help the Muslims, He says, وَمَا جَعَلَهُ اللَّهُ إِلَّا بُشْرَى وَلِتَطْمَئِنَّ بِهِ قُلُوبُكُمْ وَمَا النَّصْرُ إِلَّا مِنْ عِنْدِ اللَّهِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ عَزِيزٌ حَكِيمٌ. And Allah only gave it as good news, and that your hearts might be at ease thereby. And victory is only from Allah. So the angels, even in Badr, it was Allah just sent them to give tranquility to the Muslims and to fight. But it's really, and as glad tidings, but really the victory was from Allah. It was not from the angels. So same thing is happening here in Thawr when they're in the cave of Thawr, and Allah sends sakina on them. It says, in this ayah that Allah sent down tranquility on them. And He sends junudan lam tarawha, like He sends these forces that you couldn't see. It's really Allah that's giving them victory. So that's why Allah is mentioning this story, because He says, if you don't aid the Prophet ﷺ and go to Tabuk when he's calling you to go, Allah already aided him without any of you. He didn't need anyone. He aided those, the Prophet ﷺ, when those who disbelieved had driven him out of Mecca as one of two when they were in the cave, and He said to His companions, "La tahzan, inna Allah ma'ana." Do not grieve, indeed Allah is with us. And Allah sent down His tranquility upon him and supported him with angels you did not see, and made the word of those who disbelieved the lowest, while the word of Allah, that is the highest. And Allah is exalted in might and wise. So Allah is the one who gives victory, and Allah is telling the Muslims, here's your invitation. But if you don't accept the invitation, Allah doesn't need anyone. If no one was to accept this call of the Prophet ﷺ, Allah is saying He will suffice the Prophet ﷺ. That's why at the end of Surah Tawbah, Allah instructs the Prophet ﷺ to say, فَإِن تَوَلَّوْا فَقُلْ حَسْبِيَ اللَّهُ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا هُ. Like if they turn away, then say, حَسْبِيَ اللَّهُ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا هُ. Like Allah is sufficient for me. There is no one who deserves worship except Him. عَلَيْهِ تَوَكَّلْتُ وَهُوَ رَبُّ الْعَرْشِ الْعَظِيمِ. On Him I place my trust, and He is the Lord of the Grand Throne. So it's the same message, that the Prophet ﷺ doesn't need anyone, and Allah doesn't need the help of anyone. Allah is sufficient. There's no one else that's needed. This is merely an invitation. And so Allah continues with this last ayah that I'll go over, and I'll wrap up inshallah. انفروا خفافا وثقالا وجاهدوا بأموالكم وأنفسكم في سبيل الله ذلكم خير لكم إن كنتم تعلمون. So go forth, whether light or heavy, and strive with your wealth and your lives in the cause of Allah. That is better for you if you only knew. So, just like the Prophet ﷺ had nothing, he had nothing. He didn't have a huge army or forces when he was in that cave with Abu Bakr alone. It was him and Abu Bakr and some supplies, and that was it. And it was a Quraysh that all had their weapons, and they had the large numbers, and they had the ability to easily crush the Prophet ﷺ and Abu Bakr at the time. They had more resources, they had more strength and power and numbers. But that's not what mattered. At the end, the Prophet ﷺ and Abu Bakr had victory. So similarly, Allah is telling the Muslims, go, whether you have all the heavy, the light, whether you have all the armor, and you have the weapons, and you have all of your supplies with you that you think you're going to need to win, or you don't, and you have a lot less. Maybe you don't have as much means, and you don't have a lot of supplies, and your armor is not the heaviest armor. Allah is saying, regardless, doesn't matter. Go, whether it's light or heavy, go and strive with your wealth and your lives in the cause of Allah. ذَلِكُمْ خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ إِن كُنتُمْ تَعْلَمُونَ. That is better for you if you only knew. And so the Prophet ﷺ manages, by the permission of Allah, and these beautiful ayat that came down to convince, because obviously you can see with these ayat that Allah is sending that it took convincing, because you have to understand the Muslims, again, at this time, there's a lot of new Muslims, there's old Muslims, there's people that have gone through a lot. It's like a tough time. It's also the heat of the summer. There's also the hypocrites that are saying, why do you have to do this? They're trying to dissuade the Muslims from going and listening to the Prophet ﷺ. So there's all these forces that are at play that are really making a lot of the Muslims not want to go and do this. So Allah is convincing them. And so by the permission of Allah, 30,000 people went with the Prophet ﷺ up north on that expedition of Tabuk. When they went up north, the Caesar of the Roman Empire heard about the coming of the Prophet ﷺ with an army of 30,000. When he heard about that, he was terrified, because they couldn't beat the Prophet ﷺ's army a year or so ago when they only had 3,000. And it was at that time 3,000 versus 100,000. Now they're coming under the banner of the Prophet ﷺ himself, this great leader, and it's 30,000. And so when they heard about this, that army of the Caesar, of the Roman Empire, which is one of the greatest empires at the time, think about how significant that is. They turned back and they retreated. They fled. There was not even a single drop of blood that was shed in this battle for this expedition. So it really sends chills down your spine thinking about that. The whole time, Allah knew that not a single drop of blood would be shed. Allah knew the whole time that there would not be a need to fight. That when they go up there, these forces will retreat. And yet, so many ayat were sent down convincing and teaching and coaching the Muslims to get strong, to strengthen them, to strengthen their hearts, and to muster them up, to go up with the Prophet ﷺ. And by virtue of going up, they got immense reward. They strengthened their faith. They showed their loyalty to Allah and their desire for the akhirah and their want of being Muslim, of preferring the akhirah over this dunya. And so Allah gave them victory. Think about how amazing that is, that that they went up thinking, it's so counterintuitive to what a human being would think. By going up, putting their lives on the line, the exact opposite happened. That actually guaranteed the growth of Islam and the stronghold of Islam, because after Tabuk happened, that's when a lot of people became Muslim. That's when Islam became a real, it became really firmly rooted in the Arabian Peninsula. Now you see that the Roman Empire itself was afraid of the forces of the Prophet ﷺ by the permission of Allah. So how then for anyone else? If the Roman Empire is afraid, how then for anyone else? So this really established the Muslims and really helped them to grow and expand. And it was like really pivotal point. A lot of people accepted Islam after this, and they started to become more, they started to learn more and started to get more loyal to Islam and the Prophet ﷺ. So it was really like important part of Islam, very significant. And this is one of those things in the Quran that you really need to understand a little bit, like of the background, the context. Of course, that's for a lot of the Quran, but this surah in particular has a lot of historical background and context that you should try to read up on, inshallah, because there's a reason behind these verses. Everything was revealed at a specific time for a specific purpose to coach the Muslims to do different things. And this happens to be at the very end, towards the end of the Prophet ﷺ's life. So it's one of the last things that are sent down to the Muslims. So it's something that really strengthens them. So I'm gonna stop here, inshallah. The adhan is about to come on. May Allah accept this from us, and may Allah, make us benefit from the Quran and make it internalize in our hearts and accept from our recitation and salah and any good deeds that we try to do this month, and help us against our own weaknesses. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. وصلى الله على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح. حي على الفلاح. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله. صلوا في بيوتكم. صلوا في بيوتكم.